Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Fenella, and thank you, TEDx, for inviting me down to share a bit of my journey and the challenges that I had in my early life and what I had to overcome to be able to stand here today and present to you guys. Before I go on, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay my respects to elders past, present, and future. I'm going to share my personal journey. I might get teary and I might shed a tear, but my story isn't a sad story. Bear with me and you'll see how I overcome the challenges that I faced in my early childhood to be able to be the person I am today. As you know, my name's Keenan Mundine. I'm a proud Biripi man, a descendant from the Biripi country, which is here in New South Wales, up in Taree, through my mother. And I'm a proud descendant of the Wakka Wakka Nation up in Queensland through my father up in Cherbourg. I was born and raised here in Redfern on Gadigal land. My community in my early childhood was a really challenging community. There was a lot of unemployment, there was a lot of drugs and alcohol, there was a lot of violence, there was a heavy police presence, and I was the youngest of three boys. My mum at that time did the best she could to provide for us. My father was not present and battling with his own demons. And at an early age, my mother was taken from me from a drug overdose. 12 months after losing my mum, my father was found in a car park across the road from my school, hanging in a tree. My family and my community didn't know how to support me and my siblings after these events, and thought that the only way to provide the best support for me and my brothers was to separate us and take a child each and look after us. I was taken from Redfern out to La Perouse, and I wasn't supported or had any sort of counselling to be able to understand how these events will challenge me as a teenager, as an adult, and moving forward in life. At the age of 14, I left that household that I was in, seeking my siblings because I wanted to connect with them and I wanted to heal and I wanted my family. Unfortunately, when I found one of my older siblings, he was already heavily involved in the criminal justice system and showing signs of how his trauma manifesting and experimenting with drugs and alcohol. Unfortunately, he couldn't give me what I needed, and I was left to my own devices and to look after myself on the streets. I came in contact with the criminal justice system at 14. The people that I was hanging around at that time taught me how to take care of myself, but the skills they taught me were to break the law and take things that didn't belong to me. My journey in the criminal justice system was a lengthy one. By the age of 15, I was experimenting with drugs and alcohol myself. By the age of 16, I had a fully blown heroin habit. I was injecting heroin daily and trying any way possible to get some peace from the pain that I was feeling. I was homeless. I was in that cycle all the way up until I turned 18 and moved on to adult imprisonment. My time in adult imprisonment was very difficult because I didn't have any family, I didn't have any support, I didn't have anyone to come and visit me, to write me letters, to give me that support that I needed and that hope that I could have a life better than the one that I was living. I, at the age of 24, exited the criminal justice system and tried to build a life, one that I wanted to fight for and not go back to my old habits. It's been very challenging since trying to leave jail and prison and drugs and crime behind. I came out overqualified, but there was no pathways to employment for me because I had a criminal record. I volunteered a lot of my time and started studying. I reconnected with some of my family members. I reconnected with my siblings. I got grounded back into my culture. I started doing things, that made me feel happy about myself and regain my self-confidence. I started playing sports. I began a relationship, a positive and stable relationship at that time. And then I found my passion in sharing my journey, my lived experience, and giving back to my community to try and show others that feel like all hope is lost and there is no other life than the one that they're living, to be able to take control of their life and move forward. Since then, I got married. I had 2 children, and I've had a lot of setbacks trying to leave that life behind because of how long I was involved with the criminal justice system and the way in which it made me develop from being institutionalized at 14, not knowing how to cope or fit in the streets, not knowing how to be a proactive citizen in my community because the system doesn't teach you how to survive out here. It teaches you how to rely on people, and people do things for you when you're in custody. And I have worked as a youth worker on an early intervention and prevention program. I have worked as a post-release support worker, but these opportunities that I had were very great, and I learned a lot from them. But I worked for non-Indigenous organisations that didn't really understand how to support me culturally, didn't understand how to support me in exiting the criminal justice system and what come with that, and how my lengthy involvement would always be brought up and challenge me. I've lost 2 jobs because of my criminal record. I lost a youth worker job and a post-release support worker role. I struggled a lot with trying to find my path and get back on track. I, alongside my wife, took the challenge to build an Aboriginal community-controlled organisation to be able to target different stages of life of individuals to provide them culturally appropriate interventions and support to overcome the challenges and obstacles that they're facing. 2 years ago, I had the privilege of leaving my country to travel to the United Nations and address the Human Rights Council to lean on our government here to raise the age of criminal responsibility from 10 to 14. At the time I was in Geneva talking and giving my speech to the council, in the Northern Territory, there was 100% Indigenous youth detention. I now have built this organisation with my wife. We have a number of staff and volunteers. We are very under-resourced in the work that we do, and we target the child protection and justice system, and we are taking an innovative and creative new approach to decolonising the criminal justice system and trying to wrap culturally appropriate services, supports and interventions around our people, families and communities to keep them safer, stronger and connected, and give them opportunities to overcome poverty and disadvantage. I battle every day with my mental health because of my long involvement with the criminal justice system, and I'm very proud to be able to stand up and show my vulnerability and show my 2 sons that it's okay to ask for help. And even though I may look big and tough, I still feel pain. I still feel alone. I still feel like I don't fit in. I still struggle every day with being in the community. I get hypersensitive when I hear police sirens. I sweat. I have a physical reaction where my bowels turn, but it's okay to ask for help. In finishing my speech today, Australia taxpayers spend over $2 billion a year imprisoning people. There is no research that prisons help. On average, it costs over $100,000 to imprison one person. With $100,000, we could support 10 people out here in the community, give them access to employment, housing, give them cultural support, and give them also mental support, and to be able to provide them with opportunities that may not be afforded to them because of the choices they made. So please look out for Deadly Connections on our social media. Follow us, jump on our website. You can make donations, they're all tax deductible. And I'd love to hear from you guys about how you can help us. Thank you.